So I've just drawn out the part that I'm going to be routing out to make my pickup cavity. And this is the template that I'm going to use. I had a really hard time making pickup templates. Do I have my old attempt lying around here somewhere? Yes, I do. I mean, for the Tornado project, they were just simple rectangles, and that was easy. But for this, a humbucking pickup like that, it's just a bit rough. It's difficult to get the lines straight. Why couldn't I get those lines straight? I don't even remember. But it was difficult to do, to cut out all the corners and everything. And this, I saw someone on the internet do it, and it gave me the idea. It's great. Just measure out where the corners need to be, thickness of the pieces of wood to the right thickness, and then you can use them to get straight lines. So this is, that's a pretty high-end template, I suppose. No MDF here. So that's maple and Australian oak, and down the middle is New Zealand Cody. So there we are. That'll be the template that I use to route out the humbucking pickups here. I may have said before in other videos that I'm not the world's most patient man. And if I did say it before, I spoke the truth. I'm really not. Ideally, I would be using a drill press and a Forstner bit, or just a large drill bit, to cut out the majority of this material before I route the pickup cavity clean. But I'm having a go with a hand drill, just because I don't want to wait until I get access to a drill press. So there's a wee Bosch Forstner bit in there. And Forstner bits, I mean, they're great. They do work a lot better with a drill press, though, but I am having reasonable success. Oh, and I would say, don't drink and drill, but too late. Well, I've already started the routing. I didn't want to start it on camera in case something went terribly wrong, but so far, pretty good. As I give my commentary when I'm routing, I worry that I sound like a person who can't hear and who doesn't speak very clearly, because I'm wearing earmuffs, so I can only hear myself in a very muffled way. I don't want to get this wrong, so just bear with me a moment while I make sure everything is properly aligned. Got the guitar sitting on a soft surface while I do this. Okay, back on track. Right, we're getting there. Decent progress. Yeah, that looks good, but I'm not going to take the template off yet, and here's why. So the edges of the template are the corners in the template are 90 degrees. They're not rounded, but because that bearing is round, the cavity has rounded corners, and I don't really want that. I mean, it's inevitable, but I don't want the rounding that large. So I'm just going to take a straight router bit without a bearing and poke it down there so that the blade is cutting the wood, but the shaft with no blade is rubbing along the template. And that's much narrower than the bearing, so that will get a less rounded corner. very little difference, but it has made a difference. After all, that bit is still round, so I'm not going to get away from round corners, but the radius is a little bit smaller. So there's the bridge humbucker cavity all routed out. One strange thing I notice is that these all have a good corner on them. That not so much, but there's a little lip overhanging there, which I will sand back, and then it will. But the corner has been cut off, and that corresponds to that piece of the template. And the corner's alive and well there, so I'm not entirely sure what happened there. Doesn't actually matter. I'd like to know why it happened, but it doesn't actually matter because, excuse me, just get the bridge. That part's hidden under the bridge anyway, so I'll live with that small thing. So let's route out the pocket / cavity, whatever you want to call it, cavity, for the neck pickup. Now, because the fretboard is glued on, I can't have the router sitting flush on the guitar body because it would just bump into the fretboard. It would get in the way. I couldn't do it. So I need to elevate it. What I've done is I've glued a piece of wood onto the template, just making it longer, easier to clamp down without the clamps getting in the way of the router. And I've got a couple of thin pieces of wood under the template, just elevating it slightly to the same height as the fretboard so that I can have the template resting on this part of the fretboard, thus enabling me to make my initial cuts into the body where the pocket will be, cavity. One or the other, take your pick. Okay, let's get routing. I actually decided that I would use my hand drill, now sitting over there, and a Forstner bit just to remove some of the wood out of where this cavity will be, just to make it less work for my router bits. Speaking of router bits, I got a new one, and you'll notice, I am actually making an effort not to have my severely disfigured thumb in these shots. So it's got a very short blade. Part of the bit that holds the blade is very short. You see, I have one with a longer blade, and that didn't matter because I wasn't using the long blade to cut deeply into the wood. I was just trimming around the edge, so it doesn't have to do too much work. The benefit of having a short blade like this, and I will just be using it for routing pickup cavities, is that you can put it against your template, and even if you're not just trimming the edge, even if you're using it to cut the cavity itself, it won't go too deeply into the wood because it's not very long. Right? You couldn't really do that with the long blade because as soon as you put the bearing against the side of the template, the blade is so long that it's already, a centimetre down, which is not something you want to go doing. So, with that being said, let's put this short-bladed bit into my router and get routing. Be safe. Didn't expect to be cutting much, but I did expect to cut something. Oh, I am cutting something. It's quite a new sharp bit, so I guess it just doesn't make much noise. Yep, looking good. Let me just clean out. Yeah, that looks quite nice. I'll show you after my next pass. And I'll completely ruin it in this pass, so you won't believe me. Alright, take a peek. You might think that looks as messy as anything. Well, at the bottom looks quite messy because it's been all drilled out, but you can see the sides being routed very smoothly. Yep. So I'll just continue with this and bring you back once I've routed out the whole pocket. Disaster has struck. We'll see how bad it is. It might not be that bad because I may be able to cover the damage up, but there is damage. You see, now that the cavity was getting a little deeper, I put my slightly longer bit on, but that bit is, I don't know how good the quality is. It was very cheap, and I think it's starting to blunt somewhat. And it gave a bit of a kick as I was going around one of the corners in here, and it knocked the template quite hard, and it knocked it off course slightly. So there's a bit of a, see, there's the cut that should be there. There's a bit of a gouge taken out there. Well, not a gouge, but a cut that shouldn't be there because it pushed the template and cut into the wood where it didn't want it to. It should be able to be covered up with the pickup ring, the metal surround for the pickup, so no one should see that. But I don't want it to be there. I mean, I can't do anything about it now. Once you've cut a chunk of wood out, it's gone. So I'm going to have to realign this. So do keep your templates secured. I mean, it's kind of as secured as I could realistically have made it. But yeah, use good bits, use sharp bits. When things start looking dull or getting old, replace them. Oh well, onwards and upwards, I guess. So there are 2 pickup cavities. Now, as I indicated, there was some damage under there, but you can't see it. It's covered by the pickup ring. Actually, I said that was the one that I meant to route, and that was the damage. I got it wrong. That is the intended hole there, and that extra one there came about when I managed to jolt the template out of position. I'll knock a few bucks off. Okay, so next up, I need to route a cavity for the controls. One challenge is going to be that, if you recall, before I glued the top on, I routed a channel there and a channel there so that I would be able to put the wires through from the pickups. Those channels have now got glue in them. They look reasonably full, so hopefully I'll be able to pick and poke my way through. Otherwise, this will be a nice ornament. So, on with the routing. It's by design that I'm having to stop and move the clamps around, just because, well, shapes are a bit awkward there. It would have been easier if I had made a template, but I didn't really want to. I'm a bit lazy. So I'm just going to move this clamp over to there, and then I'll be able to route this part here. Now that I've started to get fairly deep, I have taken out the short bit, which wasn't able to reach those depths, and just replaced it with the slightly longer one. Not that long, but longer. Now that I've gotten down to a reasonable depth with this cavity, I've put the short bit back on, and I've taken away the wood because I don't need a template anymore. The short bearing can run against, the bearing of the short bit can run against the inside of the existing cavity, and because the bit is quite short, it's not cutting very deeply into the wood beyond that. Just moving the light because it's good to be able to see in to what you're doing. Yeah, that's helpful. It might not help you, but it helps me. Okay, are we in fact finished this cavity? Let's just check. So, depth-wise, it is, it's about 35-ish. 35. And how deep does it need to go in order to accommodate that controller? Okay, so that controller is about 27. Let's just measure that again. Oh no, I was way off. That's actually about 25. Okay, so I'll make another pass and go slightly deeper. I didn't want to test it by trying to push that into the cavity in case it wasn't deep enough and I would have damaged it, which is in fact what I would have done. So one more pass and then I'll be done. And there we are as the rain starts pitter-pattering down on the roof of the Monster Guitars workshop. All the cavities are done. You can see the stuff there. That's not wood, that's glue, blocking up the channels for the cabling, blocking it up like hard sponge. There must be a way of picking and cleaning that out. And I may do some cleaning inside that with sandpaper. Basically, that's good. That's neat. I don't mean neat as in jolly cool. I mean neat as in tidy, which is easier to do when you're just doing a rectangle. So that's all for today. Oh, I'll screw the hardware on just because it looks nice, and then I'll give you a shot of that before I close up the workshop for the night. And there she is with the bridge and the pickup ring in there. It's not bad looking, is it? Almost looks like a real guitar. Okay, so what is next? Okay, I don't have the output jack yet, so I won't go drilling that hole until I know exactly how big it needs to be. Do I take a break over Christmas? Or do I start shaping the top, or thinking about how I do want to shape the top, because I was planning on it? I'll start thinking about it, but you won't see that because cogs turn inside head. In any event, good night from Monster Guitars.